Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm José.
And we've seen Tully, which is a new Jason Reitman, Diablo Cody collaboration.
Yes.
It's their fourth film together. They did Juno, Jennifer's Body, Young Adult,
Yes.
and then this, Tully, which is about an expectant mother who has a new child, and she's sort of lower middle class, like subsisting on, kind of just barely getting by, her and her husband, and she is encouraged by her rich sort of snooty brother to get a night nanny.
Yeah.
Who's someone who looks after the baby when at night, stays in the house overnight, so that you can get some sleep, and then wakes you up just when you need to nurse.
Yes.
So, and after some reluctance, she decides to get the night nanny, who is called Tully. Thus the film happened. Spoilers here on.
That's right.
So the night nanny is played by Mackenzie Davis.
Yes.
The mother is Charlize Theron. Her husband is played by Ron Livingston. And the snooty brother is Mark Duplass, or I guess, who is, I know from horror, I know him as the guy from Creep. Have you seen the Creep films?
No.
They're decent, sort of fan footage horrors. Interesting, creepy stuff. But, yeah, so what do you make of Tully?
Well, I tell you, throughout the first 2/3 of the film, I thought, because, so a little bit of a background to the story. I was supposed to meet Mike at the screening. Yeah. And for various reasons...
Traffic.
He didn't show up. So, and...
They didn't let me in.
Okay.
I was 15 minutes late for the start of the film, but they didn't let me in.
Okay.
So.
Whatever. But my point is that had I not been waiting for you or expecting you to arrive, I would have walked out.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was my feeling, because I did walk out of Young Adult, right? I'm not a fan of these collaborations. I actually think that she's a very good screenwriter, but I mean, Jason Reitman directing these films, I didn't know why the fuck the camera was where it was and what it was doing and where it was going, and, I didn't like it at all. And really throughout all of the beginning, I felt it's one of those worthy films that is kind of conveying all the messages that you want films to take on board and to do it. So, Charlize Theron is pregnant and she's very fat and, she's very badly dressed and she's going through all of these, pains of having the child and, and then breastfeeding it and then, kind of all of the things that go along with it. So, it's kind of doing things that you intellectually support, but that it was unbearable to watch for me, right? And I almost walked out, or I would have walked out had I not been expecting you. And then as the film progressed, it kind of became better in a way. Yeah, I kind of,
By what point were you starting to feel like it was not quite as bad as the start?
When it became kind of fantasy. Yeah, they have the car crash, and
towards the end,
and you have this mermaid dream, and actually then I thought, well, was this Tully a real person? Was it a fantasy? Was it a dream life that she had? Right, none of those things were clear to me. They're still not clear. So, yeah. I'm curious to know what you think.
Well, I think it's very clear that Tully is supposed to have been like a Tyler Durden. A split personality situation.
Yes.
Where Tully is her. It's revealed right at the end that Tully is Charlize Theron's character's maiden name.
Right.
So that this character, that this nanny is called Tully, is obviously it's her kind of. And by the end of the film, you get this thing of she's really exhausted, she's really overworked. So obviously she's kind of been living this dual life.
Okay, that's the way I understood it.
Yeah.
But actually, I would be interested to see what the reviews say about that, because I don't think that's as clear as it could be.
I think it is clear. I think it's absolutely clear when the husband says on the form, it's Tully, Tully.
Yeah,
that couldn't be clearer.
That's the way I understood it.
Yeah.
But
I don't think it's clever. Well, no, it's not stupid, but it's not clever. But it is clear, I think. So the problem I had with that, I like the film overall. Generally speaking, I liked it. I think, although I can see your reservations about Jason Reitman's direction, I think everything that he's done, I think, could have been better directed by someone else. Right? I think that's fair enough to say.
Okay, well, that's the main point.
I think that is absolutely true, but I do think he has his flourishes. I do like a couple of montages in particular. The montage of... so right at the start of the film, Charlize Theron is about to burst with the new baby, and then she has it. And when the new baby comes into her life, and she has to do absolutely everything, and the dad's not really there, and he's playing video games and whatever, and at work, you get this sort of fabulously dissonant montage of a kind of beautiful song. I can't remember what the song is, but it seems to be something about, like, isn't life wonderful? New life, oh, how lovely it is to be a mother. And then, of course, all the imagery is running around, getting pains, leaking, shit falling over, she's got stuff to do. It's very, very quickly edited, and there's the baby screaming over the top of it. So it's this great sort of dissonant thing of, like, something that should be absolutely beautiful, that you're told is beautiful and the greatest thing in the world and such a miracle, is awful. And this kind of, it's all put on the woman to do it. Like, there is this kind of it's not the focus of it, but it is the undertow of that montage that the dad isn't helping at all, and has no idea what the mother's going through. I think that's a great montage, and I also really like the montage where the mother and Tully, the mother's name's Marlo. Marlo and Tully are going into town, going into New York at night for a few drinks, and the montage is, it's a chase camera of the car driving in, and it just jump cuts as they drive down the road, and the song changes every time. It's just like, you get this feeling of, like, the lengthy journey that they're on, but somehow the music kind of keeps it going. I thought it was kind of stylish, and I enjoyed that. I think it has its flourishes, but I agree with what you say about, ultimately, the camera is generally not kind of well motivated to be where it is a lot of the time. The editing generally isn't either. It's a film that's about its script and performance.
Yeah.
Performances.
That's right. I mean, but actually I think the script is very badly served, because I think the script has all these poetic touches, and kind of all these ways of describing the world that are kind of like poetic in a way. And kind of, the direction is not at all, So I think there's like a weird disjuncture between the script and the direction, actually. I just want to say that it's a film that made me kind of ambivalent in a way, because, so unlike most films where Mike and I see it together and we come right back here and we do this podcast, because we didn't see it together, I actually did have come across things online and on Twitter on the film.
Okay.
And I want to talk about them, which is, kind of almost contrary to our usual...
I think it's fair enough. If that happens to be the way it is, that's the way it is, and I think it could be informative and interesting.
Anyway, so what I came across that I thought was kind of conversation worthy is that, the women, or at least some women on Twitter, who are seeing this film, think it's marvelous and that they completely identify with it, and that they're seeing things in the film. And
I can totally see that.
Yeah, and I can totally see that.
I mean, I think I'm not a mother. I never have been a mother. All that kind of all that identification stuff is like, it's not direct to me. But I felt that the life of Marlo with the newborn was just beautifully evoked. I felt like I understood every single thing that was going on with their life. I like that there's a kind of when she explodes. In the class, in the meeting with the head teacher.
Yes.
I feel like that's something that probably women particularly respond to, because it's like the way they feel like they want to. That, like, every woman has probably had that. Every mother, at least, has had that kind of thing where it's like they want to fucking explode because it's all got on top of them. And that Charlize Theron's character does so it's invigorating at the very least.
Yes. I think it's interesting that women are, or some women at least, are identifying with it to the extent that they do. I don't, for obvious reasons. I'm not a woman. I don't have those experiences. But nonetheless, I thought, there was a disjunction of tone. It wasn't very well managed, right? Like, there's almost like a kind of a fabulistic quality to the film or to the screenplay, that isn't in the film. The film is kind of shot in quite a very standard, average, almost realist vein, right? Whereas actually, it's all about dream life and fantasy, and I think the film should have had a different tone.
There's an element of that. Although I think that the film is doesn't want to clue you in to the idea that Tully is not real, at any point.
I know that.
So
I know that, but it could have.
Its lack of flair is understandable, although I again get what you're saying.
Yes.
It's not inventive or expressive enough.
Well, listen, whatever Ivan Reitman's doing, it looks wrong.
Jason
it feels
Reitman.
wrong. Say Jason Reitman. It looks and feels wrong. You know.
I don't feel like it felt tonally disjunctive. It just felt tonally uninspired. Let's say.
Okay.
You know.
Well, for me, it was uninspiringly disjunctive. So.
I had a problem with the fact that what the film builds is a very convincing, very kind of honest and interesting and engaging relationship between two women,
Yes.
and then throws it away by saying
interesting.
all she's doing is talking to herself. Sorry,
Herself, yeah.
you know. I think that that feels like, although it has plot purpose and it has character purpose as well. Like ultimately, what the film is saying is Marlowe is so put upon and so stressed out that she's had to invent, a second person to cope with her life, and it's led to
like
such
a
exhaustion
child.
that she's driven into a river and nearly killed herself.
So it's like a child inventing a friend.
Right.
You could argue that it infantilizes the woman.
You could do. But it just meant that this relationship, because I had no clue, I had no idea that the film was going to say that Tully was not a real character, until towards the end when you start getting inklings of that. For the most part, she's just real and you accept that, and so that the film then has this twist felt like a bit of a kick in the face, felt like a waste, like I thought the relationship was so good between them. I really enjoyed the relationship between Tully and Marlowe.
Right.
I think they get on brilliantly. It's like this kind of almost Mary Poppins sort of parody. It's like, Mackenzie Davis is English as well, although she plays an American. But it's like, she kind of comes into this household and things just magically start improving. That Marlowe says, "God, I'm not a good mother. Good mothers make cupcakes for class." And then she wakes up in the morning and Tully's made all these cupcakes, and it's like the house is clean. All this sort of stuff, so life starts to improve magically, and it's like, and I think I couldn't say it's necessarily conscious, but it has this Mary Poppins feel of like this magical interluder who comes in.
So badly done.
Well, I don't think it is badly done. I think I think the idea and the writing is really good, and I think the portrayals are really good. So it's not all terrible, but
I'm not even sure the portrayals are good.
Well,
I kind of, I think. Charlize Theron, like, she's very good at making herself look unattractive in the service of roles, which she does in this. She looks wan and tired and so on, as she's supposed to. But I don't think that her feelings are transparent. I don't get that sense that you get with, like, great actresses, that there's a whole world happening behind their eyes and that you're privy to it. I don't get that with
I don't think she has time to have a behind the eyes in her life.
She's an actress, she should have time. Okay, like, so...
She's so stressed out, it's on the surface.
I think that she does the outer aspects of the character very well. I'm not convinced that she does the inner very well. And certainly, I didn't feel it was communicated to me. So, the fault could just be mine. But, it's something kind of worth remarking. That she seems like an actress of externals. So, I don't think the performances are that, I think they're serviceable, they're fine, I'm not criticizing it. But I don't think it's a marvel of, like, the art to see.
No.
And I thought the whole fantasy things were very poorly done. I thought, the underwater thing where she imagines herself rescuing her in the guise of a mermaid. It's a poetic idea, right? And it's visually rendered in such an ordinary way. The images are so ordinary, like an uninspired.
It looks just like Shape of Water.
No, it doesn't look like The Shape of Water, that's the point. It uses a little bit of the color palette, but there's not a single striking image in that, the way that there is in the Shape of Water. I'm glad I stayed to the end. But it took some doing,
Yeah, I liked Young Adult as well. So I mean, well, why'd you walk out of that?
They were at the bar, and the whole conversations between the people were like so cutesy poo and predictable and faux hip that I just thought, oh fuck off.
I actually appreciated that in Tully there was less of that. Like, Diablo Cody, when she made her name with Juno, it was full of this, people talking in a very, very heightened, stylized way. And I appreciated that this film had a lot less of that, and actually, people seemed real. People didn't seem like they'd sort of come out of a cartoon or something. And like I say, the conversations between Tully and Marlowe are interesting, and they grabbed me, and I wanted to know what they had to say to each other. These are two people, at the time you think that Tully is real. These are two people of different generations. Tully is 25 years old, and Marlowe is knocking 40, on her third kid, and she kind of feels like, kind of life has passed her by. She hasn't done things that she wanted to do, and they're talking about, did she settle for the right guy, and should she have had someone else, and these conversations about kind of what life is supposed to be and what it can be, and what you feel like you missed out on. And then Tully's kind of saying, no, but you're great, you're such an inspiring person just because you get through the fucking day, that sort of thing. Like, I can understand what you mean by feeling worthy, and I think again, with the way that Charlize Theron looks, kind of tired and baggy and overweight and slumped, and again, I get I can understand you using the word worthy, but it didn't feel like it was. It felt like it actually, had a purpose. It engaged me. It didn't just feel like it was being done because it was the right thing to do. It was kind of, it was saying all the right things. It felt like actually these were characters, and they felt real to me.
Okay. Well, I'm glad. I mean, it's a film that I hope I'm wrong about. But likewise, you just can't ignore your own responses. And, my responses are, as I said, that I think it's very badly made. The acting is fine, but not inspiring. And I thought there was a disjunction between the writing and the telling. The filming and the writing. And I really hated it through most of the way. I mean, I was really kind of in pain, really. I hated what I was seeing. Yeah. And actually, the moment in bed with the husband and Tully, and the wife, where at that point you're not quite clued in as to, what's really going on, I kind of thought, ugh, right? I just thought it was a series of bad moves, which kind of come together at the end.
Well, that scene makes a lot more sense at the end.
Yeah.
But I was very intrigued by it. Like, it didn't feel like... I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Well, as I said, I think it's a film that I've seen some of women's reaction online to the film. I think, I hope that they're right and I'm wrong, and maybe, it's a gendered way of viewing, and, maybe I'm not understanding it properly, and actually you may also be right about it, but my responses were as I've said them. I kind of, I really disliked it.
Let's talk about the son. The son, I think, is actually, in a way, the focus of the film. Although the film is about Charlize Theron, it's really about her relationship with her son, significantly. So, the son appears to have autism, although it's never stated as such. All anyone says is he's quirky. They talk around it. So the son is at this school that Marlowe's rich brother pays for.
Yes. I'm not sure about autism. I thought he had some attention deficit.
Well, possibly. For me, it feels like autism, but it's true that the film doesn't say as much. But it is a childhood developmental disorder. We can say that much. And all anyone will say is he's quirky.
Yes.
Or he's a very special boy.
Yes.
And this is, I think, one of the reasons that Marlowe explodes in that one scene. She says, "What the fuck is quirky? Like, do I have a..." What's she say? It's some great line of Diablo Cody. She says, "Do I have a fucking video game or something?" I can't remember what it is. But, she kind of explodes with, like, what the fuck does quirky mean? Say what you mean. so she's in this school, and the school is not really equipped to deal with this and doesn't want to. They're too high class to deal with, you know, a kid with real, you know, kind of needs. And there's this thing that the film opens on, I think, which is this brushing. So before bed, Marlowe sits there with her kid and brushes him. And it's like, it's not a bath, it's just sitting on the bed, but it's just with this kind of hand brush. She brushes him all over his body, and you see later in the film that's supposed to be about desensitizing him to things, or something like this. And you hear later on that she got it basically off a YouTube tutorial. Like she didn't have money to see a professional therapist more than once, so she just kind of went for this free YouTube thing. Like it's this, she's doing what she can, right? Yes. And she has no idea if it really does anything, but she does it because it's just like how she's kind of hoping to cope with her kind of difficult kid.
Conversation with the kid at the end of that is very good.
Yeah, this is what I'm getting to. So the very last scene of the film is this conversation with the kid where she's brushing him again, or she's about to, and the kid says, "Do we have the kid's what, 8 or 9 years old?" And the kid says, "Do we have to, basically, or maybe we could not brush tonight?" She's like, I don't even really know what it does. It's just I was told to." And then there's this moment of connection where I just, do you like it? She says, and he says, "I like being next to you." And she's like, "Yeah, I like being next to you too." And it's like, so the brushing is useless, and they both agree on that. And even though he does make eye contact with her, this is one of the things that I think is, to me, screams autism. Although again, not specified, but like one of the things about autism is you don't get these moments of connection, and if you do, they're so fucking precious. Yeah. And so you don't get eye contact, and you don't get kind of emotional openness, and so the moment when you do in this is so meaningful, and so significant, and I just love that. I think, and again, that's something I think will really speak to people who have experience with that. Even though that actually, I think that like this whole subplot almost has nothing to do with Tully. The stress of her son will be one of the reasons that she's invented Tully for herself. But it is this kind of, it's just this separate plot that kind of swims along independently, but nonetheless is kind of the anchor. It's not. I don't think it's a coincidence that the film ends up on it, and that's its final emotional.
No, it kind of begins as a thread that runs throughout. And actually, you're right. That is one of the lovely moments in the film.
Yeah. I think that relationship was beautiful, and because again, it's not just stress over a kid, but it's she's fighting for her kid all the time.
Yes.
She wants things to be right for her. She's told by the school to get this one-on-one tutor to kind of handle him, but she'll have to pay for it, and of course she can't. But she'd love to. There's obviously no question that she would if she could.
Yeah.
But she just can't. And this thing of like, again, trying to cope, and it's for the sake of her son, someone she loves and has to do right by.
Can we maybe end on a word on the husband? Why do you have to? So if you're going to make the husband so wan and just almost spectral and stupid and unfeeling and unthinking and unempathetic, why at least not cast a more charismatic actor? Right? I mean, I thought there was a real problem there. If you hire an actor who completely is a complete non-entity on screen, and then you have him play, the part of a non-entity, really, because he's not bad, the husband. He's just
not very good.
Absent, right? Like he's just almost not there. And if you cast him with an actor who can project, it's like the whole thing kind of is like a void.
The husband is, as a character, pretty thinly drawn. So it kind of it's like they take shortcuts to characterize him, really. So he's not really there. He works away quite a bit. He plays video games when he gets it. I mean, that thing of sitting on the bed with his headset on playing video games while Marlowe's trying to talk to him or sleeping next to him is kind of, that to me is what felt like too much of a sort of, it was not, it's a caricature. It's a shortcut to explaining what this character is, and it actually feels lazy. That. I suppose I didn't really have a problem with the way he was played, but although I can see your point. I mean, obviously he wasn't really the focus, so I guess that kind of helped, like, ignore that he wasn't played as well or as interestingly or as much of a character as he could have been.
He's not the focus, but he's the source of a lot of her pain and trouble.
Yeah, you do get this thing right at the end where it's not that he is a bad person, but he just isn't attentive and doesn't realise all the shit she's been going through.
Exactly. So I think you needed a better, more charismatic actor who made more of an impact than the actor who played him.
And I suppose when you get to the end of the film, just quickly thinking about it, when you get to the end of the film and you've discovered that Tully is this invention of Marlowe's, and that the doctor says to the husband she's incredibly exhausted, she's been overworking, what's going on, and you realise that the husband doesn't really know what's going on in her life, has no idea. Again, this is an instance of the film talking about a mental illness without using the name. Like, I think you would call it postpartum depression.
Yes, and actually it's referred to in her first pregnancy. But the film, yes. So, the film tells you that she had a very bad postpartum depression with the previous child.
Right.
But she's doing very well now. And actually what you realise at the end of the film is she's had an even worse postpartum depression. Right, than the previous time, but the husband has been completely uncognizant of it.
So I think there is something, it just occurs to me in the kind of, in the undertow of the film about a kind of prevalence of mental illness that is possibly undiagnosed or at least kind of present in people's lives where you just don't kind of really realise it. So with the kid, he's quirky. He doesn't appear to have a diagnosis, or people would use the phrase, or Asperger's or whatever. If he had a diagnosis, people would say that, so he doesn't. But clearly he has a developmental disorder, which is why he's troublesome. They have trouble coping with him in school. And you have this postpartum depression with the mother, which is incredibly common. And again, I suppose you could use the word worthy to describe that, although I don't think I would. I think I would say it's subtle and actually kind of realistic and actually quite effective. That it's an undercurrent as opposed to a point,
Okay. Well, again, I think we just have a difference of opinion on this one, and I think actually most of the reviewers are with you, and and again, I hope you and they are right. I just kind of thought it was very self-indulgent and very badly done on kind of an important theme that the film doesn't quite do justice to.
Fair enough. I liked it, and I think it's a really good Mary Poppins parody.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, let's leave it.
Yes.
Right.
We're Eavesdropping at the Movies. We're on Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, SoundCloud. If you just Google Eavesdropping at the Movies, I imagine I've never tried actually. I'm just going to Google Eavesdropping at the Movies now to see what happens. See if we actually show up on Google. Give me a second.
I think you will probably show up on Google.
Let's hope so. Yeah, our website and all that sort of stuff shows up. Player.fm. I've never even heard of that, but we're on it.
Okay, fantastic.
There you go. So yeah, if you Google it, then we show up. Isn't that nice?
All right. Thank you very much for listening.